All right, everyone, get ready because we are diving into a huge one today. You asked for it. We're really going to deep dive into what would happen if we tossed out all our textbooks and chucked a frisbee at the globe and just imagined a flat earth. And no, we haven't totally lost it. There's actually this super interesting text we found that lays out what would happen if this whole flat earth idea, if it were true.
It's a really wild thought experiment, isn't it? It gets really complex too.
Yeah,
And it goes way beyond just like the shape of our planet. It's
right.
not about like trying to prove that the Earth is flat, but just saying, okay, what if when you start messing with like a really basic truth like that, it's like, I don't know, like throwing one of those tiny pebbles into a pond, the ripples just keep going and going way further than you'd think.
Yeah, totally. So no pressure to rewrite all of physics
No
today.
way.
But speaking of physics, the text we're looking at, it starts off talking about gravity. And apparently, on a flat Earth, gravity would get super strange, like really weird. It says gravity would act perpendicularly to a flat Earth's surface. Can you maybe help me unpack that a bit?
Sure.
Because to me, it sounds a little like one of those, those spinning teacup rides at the amusement park.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Okay.
Okay, so picture this. Imagine a giant flat trampoline, right? Instead of our good old round Earth, so just this massive trampoline, and then think of gravity pulling everything straight down onto that trampoline surface.
Mm.
So instead of everything being pulled to the center of the Earth, like on our actual spherical Earth,
Right.
things would be pulled straight down relative to that flat plane, like they're glued to it.
Okay, I think I'm kind of getting it, like visually at least.
Yeah.
But what would that actually mean for everyday life? Would everything just start sliding towards the edge of this flat Earth?
That's where things get really interesting. So forget about those old-timey pictures of ships sailing off the edge of the world. This is all about physics now. Imagine trying to build like a skyscraper on a flat Earth with gravity working the way it would. That skyscraper might just sink like straight down into the ground like a giant cookie cutter.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, so much for cool architecture then. And speaking of things looking different, what happens to the sun and the moon in this scenario?
Well, according to this text, the sun would move in circles above this flat Earth disk.
Okay.
So picture like a giant cosmic carousel with the sun as the thing in the middle.
Right, right.
Now that might sound kind of pretty, but it means that day and night would be totally different.
How so?
Well, you'd have potentially these crazy variations in light and shadow across the entire flat Earth.
Okay, I'm starting to understand how this one small change of a flat Earth really just throws everything out of whack. What would that do to life itself? I mean, for plants, animals, all of that.
It'd be chaos. Think about those birds that migrate, flying south for the winter.
Yeah.
Their internal compasses would be totally useless.
Oh, man.
And get this, forget about seasons as we know them too.
Really?
Without the Earth tilting on its axis, there'd be no more of those predictable cycles of spring, summer, fall, winter.
So no more pumpkin spice lattes in fall.
Maybe, maybe not,
Yeah.
but probably not on a set schedule.
Wow. So would it be the same kind of weather everywhere or just completely random?
It's really hard to say for sure, but this text seems to suggest that you might end up with a more uniform climate. So picture a world with way less extreme temperatures between the equator and the poles. It's kind of wild to think of how such a massive change could totally impact something as complex as global weather.
It really makes you wonder how different human cultures would have developed in a world without seasons as we know them, you know?
Yeah.
But this also brings up another big thing. Travel, I guess. No more round the world trips, huh?
Well, not exactly. The whole concept of navigating on a flat Earth would mean we'd need to completely rethink how we understand direction and distance.
Right.
Forget north, south, east, west as we know it.
Ah.
The text suggests maybe using a system based on lines spreading out from a central point. It'd be a totally new way to get your bearings.
So maybe it's not impossible to travel, but definitely a logistical nightmare, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk about needing to make a whole new map of, well, everything.
Literally. And it's not just maps. Think about all the shipping routes, international trade,
Yeah.
planes flying all over. All of that would have to be completely reimagined.
And yeah, it's not just about getting from place to place on this whole new map.
Yeah, totally.
Hmm.
Let's talk about something we use all the time, every day. Satellites.
Right.
In this flat Earth world we're imagining, those things would be, well, basically useless. No more orbiting the Earth. which means all those communication systems
Right, right.
and the GPS we use all the time, like, it'd be gone, kaput.
So no more instantly watching whatever we want online. And no more using our phones to get around. It'd be like going back to like the Stone Age of technology. But honestly, that's kind of creepy to think about. Like, what would that do to our knowledge of space if we couldn't use satellites?
Yeah, it really makes you think. Imagine if all we had was, like, the night sky,
Right.
just this fixed dome with the stars, like, painted onto it.
Wow.
Our understanding of space would be stuck in, I don't know, like, way back when people were just starting to use those early telescopes.
It's kind of amazing to realize how much we depend on all this tech just to understand the world, even stuff that's like super far away. But this whole flat Earth thing, it's not only about science, is it? This text we're looking at, it also says that like history and culture would be totally different.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, think about all those old myths and stories about the edge of the world.
Right, right.
On a flat Earth, maybe those stories wouldn't be so far-fetched, you know? They're like, maybe they were just talking about, like, a different kind of world.
Whoa. Now my brain's really spinning. It's like those stories would take on a totally new meaning.
Right.
I'm suddenly feeling the urge to go reread all my favorite mythology.
Me too. And, it's not just myths. What about, like, all those ancient civilizations?
Right, right.
How they saw the universe, their whole view of the stars and where they fit in. It would have been based on this totally different idea of what the Earth was.
It makes you wonder if cultures would have, like, connected with each other differently. Would anyone even try to, sail around the world? Would exploration even be a thing?
Yeah. This text mentions that too. Like, maybe global trade would have been totally different. Imagine instead of ships, you had these huge groups of people and animals traveling across this flat Earth.
Right.
And they're using the stars to guide them, or landmarks, not compasses and maps like we're used to.
It'd be like a whole alternate history of, well, everything. And speaking of history, what about how we understand, like, how the Earth was formed?
Yeah.
I mean, no plate tectonics, right? So does that mean there wouldn't be mountains or volcanoes either?
Geology would be totally different, that's for sure. We didn't have things like a molten core and those moving tectonic plates.
Right.
Our whole understanding of how mountains and continents were made, even earthquakes and volcanoes, would be, well, wrong,
So scratch all that from the textbooks then.
pretty much.
But would a flat Earth be, more stable? Like, will there be fewer natural disasters? Or is that just wishful thinking?
It's really tough to say, but the text does suggest things could be different. Without those plates always shifting around, the ground might wear down differently, and weather patterns could be weird without mountains and ocean currents as we know them.
It's kind of wild to think about a world without earthquakes or tsunamis. Scary, but also, like, really fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about life itself? How would evolution work on a flat Earth? Would humans even be here?
That's a huge question. Evolutionary biologists would have a lot to figure out. I mean, without all the different environments and, like, separation of continents that shaped life on our round Earth, who knows what kind of crazy creatures would have evolved.
Okay, now I'm picturing a whole nature documentary about this,
Yeah.
narrated by, like, David Attenborough, of course.
Right.
But seriously, the more we talk about this, the more I realize just how much would be different. The text even says a flat Earth would mess with, like, our minds, how we see the world.
Totally. That's when things get really interesting. Like, imagine growing up looking out at the horizon, and it just keeps going forever in every direction.
Right.
How would that change how you feel about where you are, or how you understand, like, how big or small things are? It really makes you think about how much our environment shapes our understanding of the world,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, would the word global even mean anything if we didn't have a globe?
Right.
But it's not just, it's not just about words, right? Like, this text is saying that it would actually, like, change how our brains work, how we see things.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about, like, spatial reasoning. That ability we have to, like, find our way around, make a map in our heads.
Right, right.
On a flat Earth, those maps would be totally different.
Oh, yeah.
We might be amazing at, like, knowing which way to go if we were walking on a huge flat plane, but then maybe we'd be terrible at, like, climbing stairs or something.
Okay, that's actually kind of funny. But you're right, this is serious stuff. Like, what about time? How would we even measure time if we weren't using the Earth's rotation for day and night? Would we even have, like, a 24-hour day?
Oh, yeah. It'd be like time itself wasn't connected to anything real,
Right.
Would we even have calendars? Would we think about history the same way? Makes you wonder.
It really does. And what about the Big Bang? How would we explain where the universe came from without that theory? Like, the Big Bang is all about an expanding universe. Would we even be looking for those answers?
It's possible the whole, scientific revolution might have happened totally differently, or maybe not even at all. It just shows you how much our ideas about the universe are tied to our ideas about, well, our own planet.
That's so true. But this also makes me think about another interesting thing from this text: religion.
Oh, right. Yeah, it talks about how on a flat Earth, religions might not think about heaven and hell as these places like above or below us.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe they'd focus more on what those places represent, like symbolically.
Yeah.
Like the Earth is this sacred flat surface, and that's all there is.
It makes you wonder if those ancient cultures, the ones who really believed in a flat Earth, maybe they felt more connected to nature?
Yeah.
Like without that clear difference between the Earth and the sky, maybe the universe felt closer to them, more like a part of their everyday life.
That's a really cool way to think about it. Like the stars aren't these distant suns, but part of, I don't know, like a giant tapestry that surrounds us. Even though we know the Earth is round now, there's still something magical about looking up at the night sky.
Absolutely. This whole deep dive has been, I don't know, like a trip to another dimension. It's like we went through a portal, saw what if the Earth were flat, and came back with a totally new perspective.
And that's what I love about thought experiments. They force us to question everything, to think differently, and they remind us there's always something new to discover, even about something as basic as, well, the ground beneath our feet.
Well said. So, to everyone listening, we want to know what you think. Did this deep dive into a flat Earth rock your world? Share your thoughts, your what ifs, anything that really stood out to you. Use hashtag #FlatEarthFinale so we can find you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those big questions, and keep looking up at that amazing, massive, and thankfully still round sky.